The problem with all forms of religion is that you can't always, depend on them because people get involved, people have their own ideas, people are people. And the constant is that there's a zealot who believes everything he's been told and can't be wrong. There's someone who searches, and he is uncertain, and that's why he searches. And if you find truth, if you look for the evidence, if you believe in reality, or not believe but accept reality as it is rather than trying to change it, you will gain religious insight. And then there is the insurance payer, person who wants to be cover all the bases, wants to be certain that he's not left out if just in case they might be right, and so on. So this is the basis of all religion. It doesn't matter which one. You have those who want to believe whatever they're told because that makes life easier. And then with these rules in place, which what religion is, that's what religion is. In a human sense, it's the rules that you live by. And so with rules you become a leader, and with rules you become a judge, and with rules you then become a god, because, well, we are the right ones and they are the wrong ones. So these are the problems with religion. But it doesn't make all religion wrong. In fact, religion is the basis of all human knowledge that deals with life, and there's a little else that actually functions in that form or manner. The universities certainly do not. They have their own religion. It's called The University Knows Everything, which is a cult, because they can't be wrong. And you can't question them. What they say is true, and doesn't matter whether it's a fairy tale or not. Whatever they say is true. It's like saying evolution is true, which of course it's not. There's nothing valid or true about evolution. Absolutely nothing. They say that chaos formed people. They say that chaos formed over billions of years, and my website goes into details of those types of things. That would be www.justtalking. 7 was the last one, .info, INFO for information site. You can go there if you want. But the end result of it is evolution says that life built itself one piece at a time, without food or a mind or tools or anything else. Life just simply, poof, it was there. And of course that's just not true. Just not true. Thought came first. In other words, without thought, without order and discipline and balance, you can't build anything. And of course then you need tools and resources and so on, which of course evolution doesn't have. There's 10 million things wrong with evolution. It has no basis, in fact. None whatsoever. Their only argument is that adaptation occurs. Well, the sign of perfect design is that I planned for the future and what would be needed. In other words, I took a spare tire along in my car just in case it went flat. Or more simply, you can't have a heart without blood. Won't work. Can't have blood without blood vessels. And you can't have blood circulating without bowels and things to clean it, and lungs to power it, and the whole business. You need it all at once, or it won't work. That's the facts. So that's enough about the hogwash of university poison and the cancer of fools. There is no such thing as evolution. And for that matter, the university loves its game, every game, every fantasy. But they particularly love the idea of mocking Noah's flood. Noah's flood is a proven fact. Not by the things that they do or the things they don't do, but by the fact that we burn fossil fuels. All the fossil fuels that we burn indicate and clearly prove at one point in time this world was filled with life, and because it was all buried in big, large deposits, that means that all that life had to be gathered together in one particular location so that it could then be buried together in one particular location. That's not how it works in everyday living. It just, drops where it drops. But if you watch any flood, that gathers all those materials together. And then if you left them long enough, they sink to the bottom because they're getting intertwined. So in other words, because of the locations of fossil fuels and deposits of fossil fuel organisms that turned into oil and coal and gas and things, we know that there was, in fact, a worldwide flood. It's a proven fact. Your gasoline in your car proves it was so. But today, the purpose of this particular little video is to modify a couple little problems that I created in the Daniel 12 video I produced a little bit earlier. I was going by memory, and I remembered that the first experiment, which is a true abomination to life, to everything, that is trying to ignite nuclear fire on Earth, the burning of atoms. That's what sunfire is. It's the burning of atoms. It is a nuclear fire. It's not multiple explosions going off all the time. It is a fire. It's clearly, as obviously indicated by just the visual facts of it, and is absolutely proven by the energy released and the longevity of the flame. And again, there is absolutely no cause to believe the core of the sun is on fire. If it was, every bit of the fuel that the sun uses to expand energy in our direction or in any direction would be all burned up in a short amount of time. You can't burn all the fuel at once and expect to have fuel later. It doesn't work. It is not physically true. And of course, the universities say an element that is mere fantasy, an element that has to be, according to them, 15 times heavier than lead. 15 times heavier than lead. That would be an atom 15 times heavier, or an atom with 3,000 electrons plus 3,000 electrons circling around it, which does not exist, doesn't even come close to being proven. It is absolute fantasy, doesn't exist. That too is a complete lie and a cancer upon this earth. That is more than a cancer, because it is going to kill us. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to ignite this planet on fire with their machines. If you look for fusion-related machines, fusion or energy experiments, you will find them. ITER is the largest one, coming soon. Anyway, this is about Daniel 12. It's a biblical book, and it doesn't make me religious. It just makes me a person who searches for evidence of what is or is not true. So I've looked here, and this is that is the only book of the Bible that actually predicts the end of life on Earth. Gives you a countdown of days, and that countdown of days begins with the great abomination rising. So what could possibly be a great abomination on Earth? There's any number of things that are certainly abominations of magnitude that we don't even want to think about. Mutilating nature itself is certainly a big, big abomination. But trying to ignite nuclear fire on Earth is the greatest abomination there is and will ever be. That's because a nuclear fire, which burns atoms, cannot be extinguished once it is ignited. It cannot be extinguished. You can't take atoms away from the fire. The fuel will remain until the atoms are gone. So there's no putting it out once you ignite it. And that means that once you ignite a nuclear fire, which can be done because it exists on the sun, if it exists on the sun in reality, it can be brought here. Therefore, they are trying to ignite that, and you should expect that they will ignite that unless we stop them. That's an important fact of our lives today. We are the ones living today. We are the ones that will let them finish their ignition of atoms, or we are the ones that will stop them. It isn't going to be somebody else. It's not going to be your children. You can't blame it on the past. Today, we are the ones who will stop them from igniting or pretending to play their games of bringing the sunfire here on Earth so they can play with it. We will stop them or we will die, because the planet itself will burn. A nuclear fire is a nuclear fire. And they say that a nuclear fire on the sun is 1,000,000 miles. The flames themselves are 1,000,000 miles long. That's your scientists claiming that. They also claim that a solar flare is 12,000,000 miles long. And they don't know what a solar flare is, but a solar flare is simply more fuel being thrown into the fire and suddenly bursts into flame, and it needs room so it expands. Nonetheless, we are looking at the book of Daniel, and I'm going to read a little bit of it. It takes a little while to read a little bit, so I'm just going to do it by memory again. What is important before is remember the date is April 1st, April Fool's Day, 2011, but it was in fact April 1st, April Fool's Day 2012. So I was a year off, which makes the prediction a little bit longer. And then, of course, in the previous version of Daniel 12 video, I didn't care about the actual end date, because it doesn't matter. Why would anyone wait till the last minute to see, well, let's just wait and see if they ignite nuclear fire and destroy the world forever? Is that a plan? That is not a plan. That is, letting chaos consume you by fire. So, the date doesn't matter to me, but it does matter to you. Why, I don't know, but I calculated as July 9th, 2019 is the day hell begins. And according to the Bible here, actually in the first Daniel video, I did not understand completely the difference between 1,249 days and the next second death. It says at 1,335 days. But I do now, and that is that we know what the first ignition, the first date of this countdown to the end of life is for this earth, according to the Bible. It's not my prediction, it's the biblical prediction. It's the Old Testament, in fact. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's entirely up to you. What I note about it is that nuclear fire will destroy us all. You can't stop a nuclear fire. We can't approach a nuclear fire. It's 10 million degrees Fahrenheit hot. You can't. It will have an updraft. Once the flame ignites, the pillar of fire will rise above the earth, miles high. 1,000,000 mile long flame on the sun means that the flame goes 4 times further from the earth than the moon is from the earth. 4 times. So, in other words, the thermal rise on a pillar of fire like that will eject the atmosphere of this planet. And not only will it eject the atmosphere of this planet and kill every life on this earth and every future life on this earth, it will in fact change our solar system as well. You can't have a bigger abomination than that. Destroying the planet, it's going to explode actually and change the solar system forever. This is the great abomination. So, April 1st, 2012 is the start date. And the first 1,290 days is in fact the represents the Old Testament, the biblical Old Testament, which is a book of law. So by the law, the Old Testament was by the law you can survive. You can potentially have eternal life. You can be one of God's children if you liked that term instead. So we have passed our 1290 days from April 1st, 2012, and that brings us to the second death, which is 1335 days long. And so the second death mimics the New Testament, which is that you can survive, you can change your lives, you can change your society, you can inherit eternal life by mercy. It's no longer by the law has dead. Now it's by mercy you can do those things, and you can save the earth for yourselves. That is what the prophecy means. I'm certain of it. You can decide for yourself. So 1335 days later is July 8th, 2019. So that brings us to the end of the trial days for first and second death, or the end of the period given in Daniel 12 for this is the time of change or to die. Well, then that also has in it that there will be a time, times, and a half a time. So when you ask what is that, the first time represents, of course, the first death, or the book of law, or the time that law could save you. The times part represents the second part, which is mercy, and a recognition of love is the answer, and truth is the answer, and things like that Jesus taught would be able to save ourselves under those terms. So that's the times, and then it goes to a half a time. So a half a time, which is half of 1335 days, is 667 and a half days. So from July 9th, 2019, we'll have 666 days of hell, which is a common number that people recognize, or there's context in the Bible that says hell or Satan or whatever you want to call it. A time of enormous distress, which is, of course, terrible problems on this earth will be occurring, if you believe that prediction. But anyway, it's 666 days from there. And then we have 1 day left for judgment. That's the 667th day, as is predicted by the Bible. The Bible predicts the last day will be Judgment Day for anyone left on the earth, or those who were part of this earth, or part of the chance to change things and did not. And then we have a half a day for whatever happens beyond to those who have been judged. So this is the basic reality of Daniel 12 and the biblical prediction. And I might be wrong on the date, because sometimes I don't give a lot. I don't. Just do the calculation for yourself, and perhaps you'll end up with the same date that I have, 666 days beyond July 9th, 2019, is somewhere around March 1st or so, 2021, I think, if I remember right. I really don't care. It's only a number. Who cares? I don't care. It doesn't matter. Past the time when we have been allowed, we could easily have been that the entire world is already gone, because they have been trying to ignite a nuclear fire, same fire you see on the sun, same fire you feel on the sun, same fire that burns your skin in the summertime from 91 million miles away, same fire that burns your eyeballs and makes you blind if you look at it. That fire they're trying to bring here. That fire they're trying to bring here, and telling you, oh, how great it will be. And they say, if you ask the scientists, what is it that you're going to do with the fire once you ignite it? And they say, we don't have to worry about that, because there's not enough gravity here. on Earth, so the fire will just extinguish itself. That's the plan. There is no other plan. That's the plan. So if the fire does not extinguish itself once they ignite it, then the whole planet burns. And of course they know that, but they're certain that the fire will extinguish itself because they're certain that there's an element in the sun that's 15 times more massive than lead, which doesn't exist, which has no value, no proof, no reality to it whatsoever. And they say, well, it has to be there because that we would calculate that as that's what it was required, because the planets would not circle the sun if it was not so. Well, they don't account for the fire. The fire is the gravity that creates solar gravity, and that's because the fire, or an atom, represents two forces. You can't have a balanced state unless you have two opposite forces. So we know that there's extreme outward energy in an atom. We see that in an atomic bomb. So we know the outward force is there. But an atom is balanced. Everything, your whole body is got atoms in it. And for them to be at a balanced state, there must be an opposing force holding the outward force in place. It must actually be just a teeny bit stronger than the outward force, because that's what it takes to keep the atom contained in its own little environment. So once that atom is broken, the outward force comes out as radiation that comes to our Earth, and the inward force, which held the atom in place in a balanced state, can go to the center of the sun, or will pull the planets in rotation around that sun. That is, in fact, solar gravity. It's not stated well, but you can find a better description on my website.